This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local, national, and Native news and events. And as you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. And this portion of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count.
You know, Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focusing on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. And we have a guest here, Haley, Jannan Cotto, and we're really excited to talk to Jannan. Let me just give you a quick synopsis of who Jannan is. Jannan Cotto is a Childcare Systems Coordinator for First Children's Finance. First Children's Finance is a national nonprofit organization that provides loans and business development assistance to childcare business serving low and moderate income families. And wow, welcome to Native Roots Radio.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we got a bunch of questions to ask you, but we've really been talking with Little Moments Count for, 2 years now, Haley, and we've all talked about how important it is those first 5 years, really, but the first 3 years for sure, and how important it is. And I got a quick question for you: is why do you think it's so important to have high quality, culturally relevant childcare, and especially the first 3 years?
Well, as we know, the first 3 years are critical to brain development. And so children need high quality care as a foundation for their success later in life and in school. And, just to put a spin on it, one of the real important reasons, especially the way FCF approaches it, is that having childcare allows for parents and communities to thrive, especially from an economic development standpoint. It allows parents to be able to go back to school. It allows families to plan and grow their families, and it contributes to employers being able to have productive and happy employees that they retain, and overall is just good for communities and good for the economy.
Yeah, definitely. And we know with that brain development too, the first 3 years is such an important thing. And some places in the state I know are just childcare deserts in a big way. And so, you work as a childcare systems coordinator at First Children's Finance. Can you tell us more about this role and a little bit about First Children's Finance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with First Children's Finance since May of 2023. So it is a rather new role for me. I've been in the position of systems coordinator for less than a year. First Children's Finance is the only national nonprofit that addresses the business and finance needs of childcare, and we do that in three ways. We build the financial sustainability of childcare entrepreneurs. We partner with communities to grow their childcare supply, and we influence systems such as tribes and states and territories to provide supports and the investments that they need to sustain childcare and to grow their supply. We feel like engaging on all three of these levels is especially critical to supply building and sustainability of tribal childcare. And so in my role as Childcare Systems Coordinator, I support tribal nations' efforts to build, improve, and sustain their high quality, culturally relevant early care and education systems.
I was talking to somebody about this in another show, and there is such a shortage of high quality childcare. Why has there been such a shortage?
Well, there's been a shortage for a long time. It was definitely spotlighted through the pandemic, and of course, that is something that we all became aware of, and it's got such a huge impact on the economy, and that's really how it sort of came into the spotlight through the pandemic. I just wanted to share a few fun facts with you all. I wouldn't call them fun necessarily, but they're facts about the impact that childcare has on thriving economies. So 27 million Americans rely on childcare in order to work. The United States loses an estimated 122 billion a year due to childcare challenges. Businesses lose on average $1,640 a year for each working parent due to lost revenue and hiring costs because of insufficient childcare, totaling $23 billion annually. 77% of small business leaders say access to high quality, affordable childcare is essential or important to strengthening the economy and helping workers. So just a few facts there that really highlights how important childcare is to our communities and our economy. And one of the reasons, the big reasons, is because of the way that childcare is financed currently. So a lot of times there is sort of a decision that has to be made to either charge parents the actual cost of care so that business owners or program owners can pay their workers a living wage and retain them and keep their classrooms staffed and have as many classrooms open as possible and pay their bills and pay their insurance and do all the things and meet their actual costs. Or on the other hand, the decision is to pay less than a living wage, have a hard time attracting people into the field because the pay isn't appealing, have a hard time keeping workers because they can't afford to live on the wage that they have, and then consequently lose their staff, not have enough staff to staff their classrooms, not being able to enroll as many students, as they need to. And so it's really just kind of a cyclical issue. Has to do with the actual cost of care. It's so much higher than people really realize.
Yeah, it does. And, why do you think, and why does your organization think that being culturally relevant for our young ones is so important?
I can talk about that from my personal perspective. Personally, I think it's so important to provide culturally relevant care and learning at all ages, but especially in the first few years of a child's life, because it really sets a foundation for a strong cultural identity. And we know there's lots of research out there that says that there are so much better outcomes for kids that grow up with that strong cultural identity in many different ways. So, from their resilience, their academic success, their likelihood to be involved in any sort of like abusive relationship or, addiction. All of those outcomes are so much better when kids are connected to their cultural identity. And it helps us preserve our cultures and our language, which we know are endangered, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like though when we have a discussion like this, it's on the upswing, and people are more apt to keep culturally relevant things going. So Jannan, I really appreciate your work, and we're gonna take a quick short break. And I'm here with Jannan Cotto, First Children's Finance, and we're talking a little moments count episode here. We'll be right back after this short break.
This portion of the show is supported by Little Moments Count, who is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life.
Hey, did you know, Haley, that nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days in small moments of interaction, like talking, playing, reading, and singing, help create the pathway to build a child's brain during this early stage in life.
Yes, and you can learn actually more facts like that at littlemomentscount.org.
Hey, we're here with Jannan and Cotto, and we are talking about the child care system and First Children's Finance, and really a lot of information about the background and how important it is for not only early childhood but development, but also the people that take care of our little ones, and how you guys support and with childcare across Turtle Island. So really happy to have you on and talk a little bit about this. I have a quick question, Jannan, and one of it is you were in the Twin Cities here this past week. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing here?
Yeah, I just landed at like midnight last night. So First Children's Finance hosted the early care and education collaboratory convening of tribal nations. We were in town. We had gathered 10 tribes from 6 different states. We came together at the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank, which houses the Center for Indian Country Development. And we brought cross-functional tribal teams together. So not just education folks, but folks from representing department leadership and divisions and levels of government from across the tribe to come together, step away from their everyday work, to have the time and the space to focus and look at what they have in their early care and education systems, and what they want to do, where they want to go, set some priorities, and really start thinking about some planning improvements so that they can build and sustain what they already have. We had some really good speakers, very inspiring presentations from the Tribal Childcare Association of California. So there are over 100 tribes in California, and they were able to mend their relationship with the state. And now the state is giving tribes money to support their ECE systems because of that relationship building. So they told their story. We had 2 women from a licensed childcare on Fond du Lac Res called Grandma's House, which is a land-based immersion preschool. And they have an incredible story of how they developed this grassroots program for families in the community. And they're building language speakers. And for some families, the kids are the first ones speaking in their families in 4 generations. And so
Wow.
just really inspiring speakers. We had the Center for Indian Country Development share a couple of really neat data tools that they've developed that can help tribes make data-informed decisions, and also help tribes see what other tribes are doing and what they're successful at in terms of like their business kind of planning, the kind of loans they're getting, who's lending to them, how they're getting access to capital. who's using the new market tax credit, and just some really, really cool information learned, including First Children's Finances, a level essential elements of the ECE business ecosystem, which is our assessment and planning tool, and really takes like a cross-functional look at systems and helps leaders think about like each element, each component of a system, and how they all kind of like work together to help support ECE.
Wow, I was just talking with the mic muted, but that's amazing. So your job basically as a systems coordinator is to help tribes and businesses to maneuver through these financing and opportunities. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Financing and kind of like overall operations as well. So we help tribes see how things like helping support your workforce and ensure
Yeah.
the people that are running your programs, your businesses are savvy and they understand how to, you know, appropriately set rates and how to pay people. And, you know, sometimes that's not a decision of like maybe an administrator, but that might be an HR or tribal council question. If it's a question of like, what's the tribal living wage and what are we making sure everyone gets paid no matter what work they're doing if they're starting at the bottom. So we really help people think about those big systems questions and understand how they intersect to support ECE.
I imagine too, this is really good for nations across the country with their development of their workforce and casinos. If they can have a child care entity next to their casino and take care of their workers, because again, we have such a work shortage here in Indian country when it comes to our gaming. That would help the tribes immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. And FCF currently has a program, First Children's First Nations. We call it FCFN for short. And we, through that program, which is philanthropically funded, can go into communities and help them take a deep dive into a child care needs assessment to really deeply understand their needs. We talk to parents, we talk to providers, we talk to employers, and we help tribes get to know what the need is so that they can build a plan around that. And one of our tribes is really looking at like that need of, you know, supporting their casino employees. So they're thinking about child care potentially at the employee. They're looking at several different facilities. That's kind of part of their plan, doing a facilities audit and looking at where they can place something like that and support the people that work for their business so that their business is successful.
Yeah, that's huge. How, this isn't in my round of questions, but I'm wondering how can people get in touch with you and get in touch with your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can find information on our website about our organization overall at firstchildrensfinance.org. They can find information about the ECE Collaboratory at ececollaboratory.org. And if folks have questions for me about the tribal work that FCF does, they can absolutely reach out to me via email. And I can share that in the chat if that makes sense, or I can say it out loud.
Well, it is a radio show, so it would be cool if you said it out loud, and then I'll send up the smoke signals later. Oh, wow.
That's sounds good. So folks can email me. You see CDF people, education people, human services people, tribal leaders.
Yeah.
Send me an email, JANNANC@firstchildrensfinance.org.
One more time.
It is Jannan, JANNANC as in cat, at firstchildrensfinance.org.
Yeah, I think my nation should be contacting you. This is a good little thing you got going on here. We got like a minute and a half, 2 minutes here left. I'd love it for you to spew out anything you'd like to about your work and your organization here in the last minute or so.
I just, want to share that First Children's Finance is really all about ensuring equity and success for all communities. And it's grown a ton in the past few years, especially since the pandemic, and lots of people were getting, those COVID funds. And so that allowed us to grow. And FCF was really intentional about creating a systems team. So I'm part of a newer team. We've been around for 33 years. My team has only been around for about 4. And in response to the pandemic, and part of that creation of that systems team was to support both states and tribes and territories as well. So FCF has been thinking about tribes. Knows tribes are important. Sees sovereignty as an asset. Tribes can do some really innovative, cool things because you don't have to follow what the state does. And so we want to help tribes leverage that and leverage those assets and do really cool things for your communities. So if anyone's interested in that work, please reach out to us. We are so excited to help.
Wow, Jannan, this has been very, very interesting, and especially with my other job, I'm really will have to contact you again. This is really appreciate you spending some time with us and letting Indian country and our allies listening in on the radio show learn more about your organization. A big pinigi, and thank you so much for being on.
Nahau miigwech.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier. Now.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.